Hello, BookTube. Some of you have wondered, some of you have asked me via the email that I leave on every video. Feel free to email me about any subject, large or small, bookish or otherwise, anytime you feel like it. Some of you have asked me about one of BookTube's events that I have not gone into in great detail on this channel, Jane Austen July, a venerable event, almost a decade old. I think it's 8 years old this year. It is hosted by Blatantly Bookish and Claudia at Spinster's Library, and our great author, Katie, at Books and Things. And it's a month-long celebration of Jane Austen. And I love it for that. And this year, like every year, it has a whole bunch of prompts, a whole bunch of challenges. I thought I'd go over those with you before I tell you what I'm doing for Jane Austen July, which is going to be disappointing to a lot of people. Prompt number one, challenge number one, is to read one of Jane Austen's main 6 novels. Challenge number 2 is to read something by Jane Austen that is not one of her main 6 novels. Challenge number 3 is to read a nonfiction work about Jane Austen or her time. And I will leave links to the hostess announcement videos because they're full of great suggestions, full of great ideas. Challenge number 4 is to read a retelling of Jane Austen or a work of historical fiction set in Jane Austen's time. Challenge number 5 is to read a book by a contemporary of Jane Austen that is published between 1775 and 1817. Challenge number 6 is to watch a direct screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book, and challenge number 7 is to watch a modern screen adaptation or a retelling of a Jane Austen book. So those are the challenges. They're terrific. They cover a wide swath of territory. And I'm going to ignore all but one of them. I'm only going to honor challenge number 1. I'm going to meet challenge number 1 for Jane Austen July 2024, which is really bad of me, I know, but I'm not going to set myself up for disappointment. Instead, I'm going to set myself up for easy summertime enjoyment. So I pulled out one of the greatest Penguin Classic Deluxe editions of them all, the complete Jane Austen, edited by Karen Joy Fowler, who did the Jane Austen Book Club. That was a terrific play on Jane Austen as a novel, and that was made into a movie that you should not miss. You should not miss the movie adaptation of the Jane Austen Book Club. And in this one instance, although I never usually say it, definitely take in the director's cuts and extra stuff, the commentary on the DVD. Definitely take that in. It's also a lot of fun. I hauled down the Penguin Classic Deluxe edition of the complete Jane Austen. I now have 2 copies of this because the one that I use the most is actually falling apart. I go back to it so often. It's amazing. I have extra copies. I have individual copies of all of Jane Austen. I have a big leather-bound edition of the complete Jane Austen from Barnes & Noble. I have individual copies of Pride and Prejudice, quite a few of them. And yet, when I want to read a Jane Austen, I go to this thing. Ordinarily, that isn't true. I like my anthologies. I like my collected volumes, but ordinarily, if I want to read just one thing, then I don't want to hunt it down in the middle of something like this and read it there. I want to just grab an individual book, or better yet, an ebook. Of course, I have e-copies of all of Jane Austen as well. But when it comes to this particular author, I usually go for this volume. And for Jane Austen July 2024, it's very lackluster, but a lot of you wanted to know. I am going to reread Pride and Prejudice. It's about as basic and humdrum as it gets. That's all that I'm going to do. I'm not going to do any other challenge but number 1. Number 1 is not going to be adventurous at all. The group read for Jane Austen July 2024 is Sense and Sensibility. I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to reread a book that I virtually know by heart throughout the month of July. In other words, I'm going to take my sweet time with it and just see what it conjures, what connections it conjures. I'm just going to see what happens. That's all. I'm just going to reread Pride and Prejudice for Jane Austen July, which is very basic, very boring, but nevertheless, I wanted to make this announcement, and I want to know, since my own announcement is as boring as it gets, liven things up for me. Tell me what you're doing for Jane Austen July this year, this time around. I'm assuming that a lot of you are participating, and you're probably doing more than one challenge. You're probably doing, some of you are trying to do all of the challenges. I'm especially interested in those last 2. Jane Austen adaptations or transmogrifications. What are you making of those? What are on your radar? In a couple of the announcement videos, some web series were shouted out. Those sound very interesting. I'm not going to watch them. I'm only going to read Pride and Prejudice, but they do sound interesting. And I wonder if you know about them. I'll find the three announcement videos and link them all, just so that you can get a lot more variety and inspiration than this video is giving you. Not that that would be hard, but I wanted you to know, and I'm curious to know what you're doing. So I'll wrap this up for now with just a quick reminder that one of the only mandatory read-alongs that I've ever done on this channel, where neither you nor your friends nor your relatives nor the rest of BookTube nor the rest of YouTube was allowed to decline, was a mandatory read-along of Pride and Prejudice. Just saying, you could hunt it down on my channel. But anyway, I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.